All right, welcome to Mason Pro Services Training Lab. Today we're going to do a demonstration of the R11 refrigerant line flush kit, and more specifically on how Mason Pro Services approaches it with the applications that we feel it's necessary for. To be transparent, the manufacturers of the different products that we're going to be showing have their own videos out there, and you may have some other contractors with their own videos that are similar to this. Wanted to be transparent with that. However, the purpose for this is to show what Mason Pro Services uses it for in the applications we use it on. So moving forward, so it's the R11 flush kit. The idea behind using an R11 flush kit is to ensure that the lines are clean and components are clean whenever we've had suffered a major component failure on the refrigerant system, or more commonly, we're doing a retrofit replacement with existing line sets that for whatever reason can't be changed. So we want to ensure that they're clean of any kind of residue, contaminants, or oil that may shorten the life of the new system that we're installing. So we do that by flushing the system out with the R11 flush. R11 is it's a refrigerant, it's a cleaning solvent that's approved by the Montreal Protocol Act. So as far as the EPA is concerned, it's quite standard to be able to use this particular refrigerant to do so. So the flush kit consists of the can, they'll give you a hose, and the nozzle valve to go ahead and shoot the refrigerant into the system. It also comes with the actual valve to the canister. So this is the system we're going to use today. You may see other systems that actually have a refillable canister with a valve that you actually buy refill liquid refrigerant to pour in and charge it with nitrogen. This is a self-primed pressurized container. So having said that, again, Mason Pro Services, we utilize this most commonly for retrofit when we're replacing split air conditioning systems. And we do this only when we can have an entry point for the refrigerant flush and an exit point for the refrigerant flush. Exit point being a capture of the refrigerant and the contaminants that are being flushed out with the refrigerant into a bucket or other means of containment. And an entry point would be open here. So both ends of what we're going to flush will be open in the ideal situation. We feel that doing an R11 flush in anything that's closed or with any kind of components such as TXVs, filter dryers, accumulators, anything of that nature, if you're going to put the R11 flush through it, it may suffer the containment or the trapping of that R11 and contaminants and oil within all the small crevices, nooks and crannies and orifices and so forth. That's why we only approach it with an open end to an open end. So I will go ahead and proceed with that, and here we go. So safety glasses first. You can see that I've got my rubber gloves on. It is refrigerant. We want to be careful whenever we're using refrigerant. So we've got a simulated setup here with clear vinyl hose. We do have some oil and some debris that potentially would be typical of an existing line set during a retrofit, and we're going to introduce it through the line. It's going to flush all of the debris and oil and contaminants out to our capture point, which is the bucket over here. We do have an overlay picture that you'll see that we would ordinarily do it with a split system where we would cut the piping at the indoor unit and cut the piping at the outdoor unit. We would like to do the flushing from the indoor to the outdoor. So the outdoor is where the refrigerant is going to be free to the atmosphere and it's better ventilated rather than doing it the opposite way, and it's less mess, less fuss. So we would actually go to the indoor unit. You'll see the overlay pictures of the suction lines. This is a larger line, and the liquid line, which is a smaller line. We would actually flush those individually to the exterior termination point of a capture bucket. So it's pretty simple. We've already pierced the container. We've got the valve open. It's pressured. It's ready to go. So it's just simple. We're going to flush. You should see the refrigerant flush liquid going through, pushing the contaminants out through to the liquid containment. You can see the liquid pushing all the contaminants, and you actually visualize and you actually appreciate that the clear vinyl tubing is actually becoming more clear rather than the smoked look that it had with the contaminated oil and refrigerant that was left over. And so that's sufficiently flushed. We would then close the valve, ensure that we've got no pressure behind it. Because the next segment we will also take it and move to our nitrogen tank with up to possibly maybe 100 pounds of pressure, which is already set here. So we're going to flush this out with dry nitrogen to push any further debris or refrigerant back out. So as stated before, we don't like to do it to where there's components or potential entrapment of the R11 flush, or the R11 flush pushing any contaminants to a smaller crevice or orifice that would be trapped inside the system. So you can appreciate that when we do the nitrogen, we also push everything out through the lines that we just cleared. So we make sure the lines are nice and clear, and you can see that nothing is left. Here you will see the residue that was in a line set. That residue and particulate matter would potentially, or more likely, clog any kind of small orifice area screens within the refrigerant system. And the oil residue very possibly could mix with dissimilar oils and start to break down the oil of the new system, shortening the life of the compressor and thereby the entire system. Here are samples of actual live systems that we've taken apart with oil samples, severely contaminated. And we cut that system out, we flushed the lines. That, you can well imagine, this was in the lines. This is not so bad, but it still has some contamination in the oil. These here are acceptable. But suffice to say, no matter what system we do, Mason Pro Services always uses R11 flush on a retrofit replacement.